naga-enjoy ng holiday rush ang mga Pilipino, mga Pilipina dyan sa Toronto, Canada. Sa Edmonton, Alberta. Nag-feedback tayo. Nag-check ng ating feedback natin ngayon. No? So, pakicheck muna. Ang tamang oras natin, mga kababayan, ay 1 minuto nakalipas sa oras na alas 8 ng umaga. No? Sabay binabati natin ang mga John Juanes Group o John Juanles Group o otherwise known as Marites Group dyan sa Toronto, Canada. No? Tumawag sa akin, nag-message sa atin ang BFF natin, classmate natin, ang Barbidal namin noong 1983. Sabi ni Miss Jocelyn Humukan, they are having dinner daw. Sila ni Madam Det ba o Deti, si Madam Mierna, si Elena, si Mayet, si Mercy, si Rima Palumo. Ang iba rito taga Western Visayas. No? Kumusta kayo dyan? Ang ganda, no? Pag nagkita-kita sila, dinner, kasi malaki ang value ng pera nila doon. Pagkatapos dinner, kasama ang konting maritisan portion, mga kababayan. No? Sana all, ganun ang buhay. Ang grupo ng John Juanles Group dyan sa Toronto, Canada. No? Ang pamilya ni paring Nor Morania dyan sa Houston, Texas, at si Sergio Marie Hamili, batchmate natin, dyan naman sa Georgia, United States of America, mga kababayan. So again, welcome sa Public Agenda Program. At ngayong araw ay another episode of Anytime Maritime, mga kababayan. At ang Anytime Maritime natin today will feature two significant topics na pag-uusapan natin, at ito ay may kinalaman sa international maritime dispute. Kasama rin natin ang ilan sa mga usapin may kinalaman sa cyber libel at Magna Carta para sa mga seafarers, mga kababayan. No? Dalawang abogado ang magiging kapanayam natin today sa Anytime Maritime. Of course, si Attorney Michelle Rubio Aguinaldo. At isa lang pala ang magiging bisita natin. No? Sa December 12 pala itong episode kung saan i-feature natin ang FASCAT, tungkol sa FASCAT, mga kababayan. Now we have another 3 editions or episode before the Christmas break para sa mga kababayan natin. Marami nagtatanong, ang Magna Carta ba for Filipino seafarers, aprobado na ito sa both houses of Congress? Isa na ba itong Acta Republica? Ang sagot natin, hindi pa, mga kababayan. Isasalang pa ito sa bicameral committee. At to our information, ang natanggap natin balita today, the bicameral committee will convene. At ang convening ng bicameral committee ay para, ang purpose ng bicameral committee para ma-harmonize ang iba't ibang version. Kasi sa Kamara, ganon din sa Senado, ang House Bill kung minsan may tag-4 ka bersyon, may 5 ka bersyon. Hindi lang co-authorship ang ginagawa ng ilang kongresista, ngunit meron silang sariling bersyon. Ganon din sa Senate, ang tawag dyan ay counterpart bill. So, ang counterpart bill, kasama ang aprobadong mga bersyon sa 2 kapulungan ng Kongreso, kailangan ito idaan sa BICAM. So, ang bicameral conference o bicameral committee conference, dyan nila tinatackle kung ano ang pag-harmonize na mga bersyon para walang magiging kalituan. At bago ito aprobahan at magiging isang ganap na batas at permado ng presidente ng Republika ng Pilipinas, the same is going to be synchronized as one version bago ito magiging Akta Republika, mga kababayan. No? Binabati natin ang mga Filipino community dyan sa Kudat, sa Bandar Seri Bigawan, sa Area Pro ng Brunei Darussalam, at sa BIMP Yaga Media. Sa Palawan Vanguard Online News Agency, kasama natin ang One Panay Movement, ang One Iloilo, ang Solid Multimedia Group, ang iba mga colleagues natin dati sa Bombo Radio Philippines. Ang iba naman ay makasamahan natin ngayon sa Radyo Mo Nationwide. Ang iba ay mga vloggers, yung iba mga content creators, at ang iba ay mga production makers ng multimedia diyan sa area po ng Panay at sa area po ng Mindanao, mga kababayan. No? So ang oras natin ngayon ay 7 minuto na po nakalipas sa alas 8 ng umaga. And kung hindi tayo magkakamali, yung isa sa mga screen natin ngayon via StreamYard, at makakausap natin with the founder of Anytime Maritime, si Ma'am Mary Ann Pastrana, ay isang practicing lawyer, no? Si Attorney Michelle Rubio Aguinaldo. Siya po ang magiging resource person natin. Siya ang makakausap natin, at siya po ang, of course, magiging guest natin for today sa Anytime Maritime. Anong pag-uusapan natin today? Of course, international maritime dispute, kasama ang cyber libel, at higit sa lahat itong inaasama-asam, hinihintay ng marami, ang Magna Carta for seafarers, mga kababayan. Ang kanina sinabi ko na pag intro ng program natin, ito ba ang Magna Carta for seafarers will be acceptable, would be applicable sa mga Filipino seamen na ito ay palagi ang nakasampa at nakipagsapalaran sa kanilang international journey para gumanda ang buhay nila sa pamamagitan po ng maritime industry, mga kababayan. Without much ado, i-acknowledge ko muna ang founder ng Anytime Maritime, o si Ma'am Mary Ann Ibuna Pastrana. Magandang umaga po.
Hi, good morning, GM Alex. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning, Attorney Michelle, and welcome to Anytime Maritime. Thank you for being here. Sa ating mga nakikinig, hello po, kamusta po kayo? I am in Alabang, and hello Palawan, Malaysia, Canada, Vanguard Online News. Thank you po for tuning in. Today, GM Alex, we're very, very blessed to have with us Attorney Michelle Rubio Aguinaldo to talk about the Magna Carta of Seafarers, and maybe we can briefly touch on what you have already mentioned. Being a lawyer who's very passionate with law and international law at that. Next naman, Attorney Michelle. Makita natin, batang-batang abogado. Attorney Michelle, hello!
Hi, boss. Good morning po. Good morning, Sir Alex.
Good morning.
Just a bit of a disclaimer, okay? I'm not an expert in maritime law, but I would be happy, and it would be my pleasure to guide you through the Magna Carta of Seafarers from the point of view of a litigator or a practitioner. So it poses a great difference kasi when we say that somebody is specializing in a certain field, normally these are the ones, ito yung mga importanteng skills nila pagdating sa policy making, right? And when it comes to certain disputes, the skill of a litigator comes very in handy. So it's a very good way to analyze the law from the perspective of a litigator, because we are able to pinpoint certain parts of the law would probably create a legal dispute later on. and which portions of the law have constitutional defects. So we will be able to analyze that today, and just to be able to limit also and limit the topic that we'll be discussing. We'll just focus first on the Magna Carta. Let's see if we'll have time to discuss on the international maritime dispute, because in a way, international maritime dispute relates to disputes that are usually against foreign jurisdiction. So yung mga, like for example, the West Philippine Sea, that's one. So it's more of a public international law. This one is private international law. But we are since we are adopting international conventions and international treaties, we're trying to employ them here in our national law. Okay, so that's the difference. And use a cyber libel, that's a totally different matter that we can actually, we'll see if we have time, but just to be able to segmentize the and to limit yung relevance. Okay, so
Yeah. Mukhang babalik ka sa amin, ha? Mukhang hindi lang itong una na unang pagbisita mo sa amin dahil ang daming topic na pwedeng pag-usapan with regards to what we have discussed. So, sige, in simple terms, kasi marami nakikinig sa atin na hindi naman abogado kagaya ko, no? And maybe Alex, kahit may PhD yan sa public administration, maybe iba pa rin ang point of view ng lawyer. So, okay, didiretsuhin ko na, GM Alex, ang tanong kay Attorney Michelle. Attorney, ano ba ang kahalagahan nitong Magna Carta of Seafarers at bakit kailangan maging interesado ang mga seafarer? Alam naman natin na ang Pilipinas ang manning capital of the world. No, we provide about 30% of the manpower in the global maritime industry, and therefore we must be in the know of this Magna Carta of Seafarers that's being passed in our country. Ano ba kahalagahan? Bakit pa kailangan may pakialam ang mga Pilipinong seafarer tungkol dito?
Yes. Actually, boss, it is my position that all Filipinos should be well-versed when it comes to what the law is. So not necessarily kasi the lawyer becomes very significant when there's a dispute already, but we should know how to read the law, because that's the first thing that is the requirement, diba? Kailangan alam natin eh. So I invite everyone, if I can ask the host to please post this the link that I posted through the private chat. Kindly let everyone have access to it, kasi this is actually the bill. This is the bill of the Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers that is currently pending right now. And we'll go through it. I won't use any legalistic words. I will explain to you how you will be able to understand the law from the point of view of a layman without being very technical about it. So, yung importance ng Magna Carta is actually found in the Declaration of Policy and Objective. Okay? So that's section 2 of the law itself. So simple lang, it states here that the law shall protect the right and overall welfare of local and overseas Filipino seafarers. So by the policy itself, you know already if it will apply to you or not. Diba? Because that is one question. Then bisa nagkakaroon tayo ng problema. We don't know how to apply the law. What is it in the first place, applicable ba yan sa atin or hindi, diba? Kasi doon mo malalaman what are your rights and obligations. Okay, so that's the first thing that we have to know. And going further, actually, towards this ends, the state shall endeavor to secure decent working and living conditions for seafarers, standardize the terms and conditions of their employment, regulate operations of manning agencies, and incentivize maritime stakeholders, establish enhanced mechanisms for administrative, adjudicative, social, and welfare services for the seafarers and their families. What does that mean? By reading that alone, we know already that the law will govern the terms of employment of a seafarer. Which tinatanggal niya ngayon yung jurisdiction from what we know as dole. So we know already na yung from the labor code, tinatanggal niya ngayon. So hindi when we talk about the rights and with respect to the work employment of a seafarer, we don't rely sa labor code. We rely on the Magna Carta and all other incidental issuances that the law it's implementing rules and regulations, and other issuances that the law that will come from the law later on kasi hindi pa siya approved. So that's the significance.
Attorney?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Mama, if kung pwede unahin muna natin itong so that ang mga nakikinig sa atin at nanonood will be guided accordingly, no? It's I am really appreciative of our guest dahil ang guest natin ay alam natin napakahusay. Medyo matagal na ang kanyang pag-aaral sa bagay na ito. Pero i-lay down muna natin ang foundation ng ating pag-uusapan. Number one is paano nag-umpisa ito? Because sobra 2 dekada na ito, Attorney Michelle, ang quest ng mga mambabatas. Mga 2 dekada na mahigit ang quest ng mga mambabatas para maisabatas itong tinatawag nating magiging protective law sa ang Magna Carta for Seafarers. In fact, ang background dito started in 2002 nung senador pa si Ramon Magsaysay Jr. at dahil na rin sa pangangampanya ng maraming advocators para mabigyan ng tamang proteksyon ang mga manggagawa. Alam mo kung minsan masarap lang pakinggan ang seafarers na word o mga seamen, pero sa totoo lang ang ending nito at the end of the day, labor pa rin ito. Labor pa rin. Medyo high level nga labor lang ang nangyayari. And ang Pilipinas is acknowledged as number 1 global supplier of labor when it comes to seafarers.
Yes,
kaya siguro bilang tribute sa lahat ng mga nauna, sa mga upcoming, sa mga naghahangad pa sa magiging seafarers in the near future, kailangan pakinggan nila ito, lalong-lalo na sa kanilang mga pamilya. Dahil ako, dalawa ang sa akin. That's why I can relate this topic, dahil 2 sa mga anak ko ang nakikipagsapalaran din sa karagatan sa iba't ibang bansa. Na ang end goal niyan palagi at the end of the day, ang iniisip, gustuhin man nilang wag umalis sa tabi natin, pero mas malawak daw ang greener pasture beyond horizon ng Pilipinas. So that is understandable.
Yeah.
Kaya siguro kailangan natin basically ma-discuss. That's why I was so happy when you said na not to be legalistic about it, but we will do it in a layman's term. Kasi ang mahalaga sa Anytime Maritime na tayo ay channel of information, tayo ay avenue lamang ng appropriate communication, how we can impart sa mga nakikinig sa atin ng mga nalalaman natin para sa kanilang kapakinabangan. Now, if my memory serves me right, I bumped upon an information that today the bicameral committee will meet and will discuss about pag-harmonize ng mga bersyon. Kasi sa House of Representatives, aprobado na ito sa third and final reading.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, meron ding bersyon sa Senate na hindi lang authored by senators before and incumbent senators. Marami ang mga authors nito sa Senate, ang counterpart bill. Isa sa mga author nito ay si Senator Sonny Angara sa pending Senate Bill number 314.
Yes.
Si Senator Loren Legarda. Meron ding bersyon sa Senate Bill number 244 at si Senator G.V. Ejercito sa kanyang Senate Bill number 904. And of late, recently, isa sa mga mayroong sariling bersyon, an act instituting the Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers ay itong celebrated na si Senator Raffy Tulfo. Now, given that note, siguro Attorney Michelle, hilingin ko sa iyo na ipaliwanag natin sa mga nakikinig at nanonood sa atin, pag sinabi nating bersyon sa lower house, aprobado na, bersyon sa Senate, aprobado na rin, itong bicameral conference, ang purpose nito ay to synchronize all versions or to consolidate all versions para magiging isa at magiging ganap na batas bago ito aprobahan ng both houses of Congress at dalhin sa Pangulo ng Pilipinas para permahan para magiging isang akta republika. So please, dyan muna tayo mag-umpisa. Ano ang, kasi naghihintay sila sa atin, kailan ma-approve? Yung sinasabi nila. Kasi sabi nila, marami ang version ng Magna Carta, pero bakit ang tagal ma-approve? So, please, Attorney Michelle.
Yeah. Actually, when I looked into into the topic, I was able to come across the version of Senator Angara way back in 2019. I don't know which versions are much earlier than that. So you can already tell how long this law has been in the works. Pero ano kasi like any other law naman, it's and as history would teach us, a law cannot just you cannot just come up with a law overnight. So it goes through a certain reviews. And yun nga po yung sinasabi from the proponent, it has to go through the bicameral committee for further revisions. And that's why kaya minsan yung batas po natin from the original draft, nagkakaroon na po yan ng mga maraming amendments, revisions before it would be passed. And it eventually take effect. So the final approval will come from the president upon the approval of the Senate and the House. So that's how it ripens into law. Pero marami pong dinadaanan niya na corrections and revisions along the way. So I'm not sure lang in which particular in this particular law ano yung right now as Sir Alex mentioned, it's going to be a subject of the session today. I'm not sure which particular portion of the law would be covered.
Okay. Ang seafarers, according to records, correct me if I'm wrong, dito sa explanatory note na sinulat ni Senator Raffy Tulfo sa Senate Bill number 216. Alam mo, this is a very revealing truth that Filipino seafarers na nagipagsapalaran sa buong mundo are numbering in the tune of 380,000 seafarers. 380,000. At nasa tinatayang 6 billion or 6.14 billion ang kanilang contribution sa ating economy. I'm sorry ha. Kare-recover ko lang kasi sa flu. Now, tinatayang mga nasa 6.14 billion US dollars. B ang kanilang contribution to balance the Philippine economy. Hindi pa kasama dyan ang itong tinatawag nating mga modern day heroes na dating minsan naging limot ng mga bayani, mga OFW natin. Sa madaling sabi, tama ang paniniwala natin na maganda pakinggan ang word o term na seafarers, dollar earners. Pero at the end of the day, it's still labor. global labor. So, ayon sa explanatory note ng Senate Bill 216 ni Senator Raffy Tulfo, ang mga Pilipino, kagaya ng binanggit ni Ma'am Mary Ann Pastrana in the past 3 episodes of Anytime Maritime, ang Filipino seafarers are among the sought after. Sila ang mas hinahanap dahil, quote, they can speak English, they are hardworking, they are well-trained na mga seafarers, and they are adaptable, able to turn any job. They are parang matibay na kawayan ang mga Filipino. Ito maraming na-aksidente, maraming namatay sa kalagitnaan ng pakikipagsapalaran. Yung iba naman, baon nila ang luha at kalungkutan. Salamat sa bagong technology kasi hindi na ganun kalungkot ang sitwasyon ng mga seafarers ngayon. So, do you believe na kung maipasa at maisabatas itong whatever version or consolidated version ng Magna Carta for Filipino seafarers, ito ba ay magiging instrument para mas lalo nating mabigyan ng proteksyon ang mga Filipino seafarers here and especially in the international community of maritime labor? Attorney Michelle.
Yeah, actually, Sir Alex, that's why I wanted to go through the law, because the first thing is that, of course, the only person who would be able to say that it will address the problems of the Filipino seafarers would be the seafarer himself, being the person who is siya yung pinaka-affected, right? And being the primary stakeholder. And number 2, actually, like any other law, the policy is ideal, the objective is there, the goal is there. However, the main consideration would be the enforcement or implementation. How faithful is the government in implementing the law is going to play a very important role. So it might be too early to say that it would address the problems. The law is the first step, only the first step towards that goal of actually addressing it, because we come up with laws as solutions, right? Supposedly as solutions to with the problems that we are currently encountering, especially in the maritime industry. And as the main problem that I would also like to point out is of course yung conflicts of law with respect to foreign employment, di ba? Kasi we're not, it's not just hindi lang naman ito confined within the domestic shipping. Because that's, as you pointed out, most Filipino seafarers are opting for the international waters, international shipping, because of the greener pasture. So it requires naturally they should be they should be given more protection. I think that's the idea. That's why we cannot just consider them as employees and within the scope of the labor code, right? It has to there has to be a law that would also bind foreign employers. So and because another factor is the risk that they're taking. Syempre iba yung environment that they are, iba yung working conditions nila. So that's why there has to be, it's very important and it's very essential that we should have a Magna Carta for the seafarers. And actually I'm quite surprised kasi this is something that should have long overdue. This is long overdue.
Correct. Sobra ka long overdue. In fact, Attorney Michelle, wala naman sigurong mga Filipino seafarers na lihis sa pananaw, bakit ka nagiging seaman? Nagiging seaman ka, kaakibat na yung hangad na balang araw baka magiging kapitan ka pa. Ang end goal mo palagi is para, kung sa mga local tang pa rito sa Palawan, para umayad ang buhay mo. Gumanda ang buhay mo, makakatulong ka sa pamilya, at higit sa lahat, ma-elevate mo ang status mo kung saan ka nanggaling. Kagaya ko noon, sobrang kahirap. 10 kami magkakapatid. Nag-janitor ako sa eskwelahan para makakolehiyo. Ang hangad ko noon, very basic lang. Magkapagtapos, magiging maestro para makabili ng pantalon. Kasi hindi ko naranasan ang meron akong maraming pantalon noong nag-aaral ako. Makabili lang ng pantalon at sapatos. But, kagaya ng mga seafarers, mali pala ang pananaw na kailangan nating pumunta, sumampa at maisampa sa mga barko internasyonal para gumanda ang buhay natin. Beyond that, meron palang misyon tayo. So, ang pananaw natin personally ay, kagaya mo, abogado ka. Definitely, maganda ang buhay mo. Maganda ka pa. At maganda ang kalagayan mo. Pero beyond sa kagandahan ng buhay na yan, beyond sa kakayahan natin, meron tayong misyon. So, ang misyon natin ngayon ni Mama Ip, pare-pareho. Dito sa Anytime Maritime, paano tayo makakatulong na hindi mamamatay itong aspirations at common expectations ng mga seafarers. Ito. Meron na tayong 1996 may batas na tungkol sa Overseas Filipinos and Migrant Workers Act.
Yes.
This is Republic Act 8042, circa 1996. Bakit hindi ba kasama sa RA 8042 ang Magna Carta for Seafarers? Ano tingin mo rito? Hindi ba ito magiging class legislation na sabihin ng ibang mga Pilipino, pare-pareho man lang kaming OFW, pare-pareho man lang kami nakikipagsapalaran sa ibang bansa, kaya lang kami domestic helper, kami tutor ng English, kami nagabantay matanda sa ibang bansa, bakit magkakaroon pa ng Magna Carta for Seafarers samantala meron namang Overseas Filipino and Migrant Workers Act? Paano natin ito mabigyan ng buhay at paano natin mabigyan ng paliwanag ito in terms of lawmaking? Kasi I agree with you 1,000%. Laws are being crafted, laws are being approved para hindi lang mapagbigyan, ngunit matugunan ang sentimiento ng mamamayang Pilipino. That is the job of lawmakers.
Yes. Well, actually, dun sa law on the migrant workers, we cannot really, that's why in taking into consideration what laws should be passed or what laws should be drafted, we take into consideration certain requirements such as substantial distinction, whether it address medyo technical na to kung ina-address ba niya kung ina-address ba niya yung mga issues that it seeks to address, and whether it is germane to the purpose of the law that it seeks to implement, or it seeks to create or establish. Those things actually we take into consideration because that will protect. That's the foundation of a law. Bago magkaroon yan, yun yung mga pinag-iisipan ng mga lawmakers natin. So in crafting the Magna Carta, ano ba yung mga naging, this is from my point of view, ano ba yung mga certain distinctions, substantial distinctions, which makes a seafarer different from another migrant worker na nangangailangan siya ng additional protection. Again, as mentioned a while ago, the working condition. Imagine being in the open sea for months. Diba? So, yung accidents, and there are no hospitals, no facilities na malapit for them to be able to address their immediate the emergencies that are, and there are countless of emergencies in ano, 'di ba, na nangyayari while they are navigating the ano. It's a very unpredictable situation. They are in a very unpredictable situation every single day and night, 'di ba? So
Yeah.
that alone is gives them it places them differently from other migrant workers.
Okay, this
Yeah.
is very interesting ha. Bago ko i-turn over sa founder ng Anytime Maritime ang panahon for some queries, questioning. You know, this is a very interesting discussion. At siguro sa mga nakasalamuha namin ni Ma'am Mary Ann Pastrana dito sa Anytime Maritime, isa ka sa masasabi nating pinakamatalino. Kasi madali mong ma-relate ang question, madali mo pang ma-interpret. Now, this time, I need your interpretation. Granting for the sake of presentation and for the sake of communication facilities of Anytime Maritime, with all these barrage of multimedia who are with us right now, at with the families and with the Filipino seafarers themselves. Sabi nga ng anak ko one time, nakapanood sila sa Australia ng episode natin kasi pinorward ko sa kanya. Sabi ko, ikayatin mo ang mga kapwa Pilipino mo dyan, even ang mga bossing nyo sa barko, to watch and to of course take interest, kasi ang pinag-uusapan namin tuwing Martes ay para sa inyong lahat. Question, Attorney Michelle, technical ito na question. Granting for this discussion na the pending bills, the approved bills in both houses of Congress, granting na na-harmonize na ang bersyon and granting the approved bill will become a law. Question, ito Magna Carta for Filipino seafarers, paano mapakinabangan ng mga Filipino seafarers since ang batas na ito will only be applicable sa bansa natin? Paano ito magamit ng mga Filipino seafarers in abroad? Kasi alam mo naman, ang batas ng Pilipinas ay hindi applicable sa batas ng Europa. Kung ano man ang Magna Carta natin, of course, marami na Magna Carta. May Magna Carta for public school teachers, may Red Book for PNP. Lahat yan ay protective laws para sa iba't ibang sektor ng ating republika. Now, technical question is that granting na kahit bukas pa o babayang gabi, aprobahan nila in a bicameral conference ang final version ng batas. Paano ang batas magiging applicable sa kapakanan ng mga Filipino seafarers who are overseas, Attorney?
That's a very, very technical question because it already involves, as I mentioned a while ago, the conflicts of laws. So it's dito na ngayon magkakaroon ng interplay yung law na kung saan where the seafarer will be deployed or yung kanyang quote-unquote employer versus the Philippine laws. So it's going to be very technical in discussing that kasi depende din siya dun sa kontrata na gagawin nila. And the contract usually is drafted by the employer, right? But and that's why it's very important that when drafting laws, we must take into consideration the commonalities. These commonalities are the common legal principles that the international law is promoting. Example, treaties, yung mga conventions. We have the ILO, the International Labor Organization. May mga soft laws tayo, and may mga principles yan that all countries or nations of any jurisdiction is expected to honor. So kahit hindi ka bound, 'di ba? Because of the principle of sovereignty, hindi ka bound sa Philippine laws. You are a country, a foreign jurisdiction is expected to at least comply with its to comply with its duties under the international law. So may mga principles tayo dyan that we should be able to incorporate doon sa batas natin, sa national law natin. So that makes it that somehow it makes it more easier to harmonize yung law ng isang foreign jurisdiction, law kung sino yung employer mo, sila kasi nagda-draft niyan. Minsan nakalagay dyan, may provision dyan under the law that this contract shall be governed by the laws of whichever law it would, di ba? Kung anong country yon. Naka-stipulate yan dun sa kontrata, sa employment contract. So in that sense, of course, we have to be able to harmonize them. Now in the Philippines, kung halimbawa magde-deploy tayo ng mga seafarers, and in the same din sa mga migrant workers natin, there should be an ambit of protection. Right? So another aspect of that pagdating sa conflicts of laws, if there's a foreign employer that seeks to, of course, deploy Filipinos there dun sa it's a point of point of operations, that entity could also be subject to Philippine laws if that entity is incorporated here or meron siyang local subsidiary, and the local subsidiary should adopt the Philippine laws, of course. Covered yan ng laws natin. So definitely, as between the two, our laws should prevail, even in so far as
I agree because sa experience ng anak ko, wala namang kontrata na pinipirmahan sa labas. Yung isang company nila is yung Anglo Global. Ang permahan usually ay ginaganap sa tanggapan nila sa Makati. Kasi nung una pa lang sumakay itong isa, parang baby pa, sinamahan ko mismo way back mga 2014 ata yun. Kasi parang hindi pa nalutas sa tatay ba. So, at saka siyempre, ikaw rin, dahil batang-bata, patakot ka rin, baka ano mangyari. But kinalaunan, okay na rin. So, tama ka in one aspect na kung dito sa Pilipinas, ang permahan ng kontrata, kailangan magpe-prevail yung what is provided for to protect our seafarers, no? At sa ibang bansa naman, alam ni Ma'am Marian Pastrana, dahil palagi sa ibang bansa, nag-attend ng mga conferences ng mga international seafarers group, mga maritime na mga, of course, mga employers, at kung ano-ano mga samahan protected by the International Labor Organization, kailangan respetuhin nila. Kung sa bagay, Attorney Michelle, I agree na hindi naman one-man army ang gobyerno natin eh. There are extraterritorial jurisdictions that we are having sa pamamagitan ng mga embahada natin at mga consular offices, no? Ang ating mga nasa diplomatic corps, sila ang dapat magtatrabaho. Now, I will not this time belabor of your time. Ayoko pahirapan ka kasi maraming mga technical questions na nakita ko, pero dahil magaling ka na abogada, pero hindi ka pa naman congresswoman eh. Kaya hindi mo kayang i-offer ang mga answer dito sa mga technical questions, especially sa mga verbatim na provision ng batas, no? Iwasan na lang natin yan. Ang pag-usapan na lang natin ang mapadali, because this is long overdue na batas. Okay? I will give the floor now to the founder of Anytime Maritime, Miss Marian Pastrana. Ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, GM Alex. Siguro idagdag ko lang, Attorney Michelle, no, sa sinabi mo, ang uniqueness ng pagbabarko or in the maritime industry is that we are also governed by international laws passed by the International Maritime Organization. JM Alex, yan ang kaibahan kung sasabihin mong domestic helper, sila walang batas for domestic helpers lang. Hindi kagaya ng pagmamarino na merong IMO, may standard ng training, kaya may tinatawag na STCW, may ILO, yung binanggit ni Attorney Michelle, na International Labour Organization. So, yun ang uniqueness pa ng pagbabarko. No? Aside from what you had already mentioned na yung living and working conditions is different because nga nasa dagat sila, they move around the world, 'di ba? Yung may mga barko na iba-ibang pinupuntahan nila, merong short distances, merong all over the world. So, there has to be an all-encompassing law, and that is the uniqueness of the maritime industry. That's why napakahalaga ng Magna Carta of Seafarers because yung sinasabi niyong long time overdue, this is foundational. Kapag meron pong malakas na foundation, mas maraming mabubungang mabuti. Kaya yung sinasabi nating long overdue. And here in Anytime Maritime, Attorney Mish and GM, we always think that pag-usapan natin itong mga to para tumaas ang awareness and maybe yung mga young students na nakikinig sa atin, matulungan nating ma-open up yung kanilang mga vision, mata at pag-iisip so that we all start thinking maritime and see the benefits that it can bring all of us as a people, as a nation, as a global maritime industry. So, thank you, Attorney Michelle, for opening up the eyes that napakahalaga ng Magna Carta of Seafarers. Now, I wanted to discuss one big issue that's happening now in the industry. Sa lahat po ng na-attendan kong mga conferences, tinatanong ko parang, kamusta ba? Ano mga issue natin ngayon? Ano mga para bang sakit ng industriya na kailangan nating pag-usapan, bigyan ng pansin at ayusin. And one of it is yung ambulance chasing. Yan, pag-usapan natin yan. Kasi isa yan sa nakakasama sa ating industriya. Pero sandali, bago po tayo magtuloy, Attorney Michelle and GM Alex, pwede bang papasukin na natin ang isa pa nating abogado sa maritime industry, si Attorney Rex Tupas, na sasama sa atin? Dahil alam naman natin, ang mga bisita natin, napaka-busy. Hello, Attorney Rex. Busy po silang lahat. Alam natin si Attorney Michelle, siningit tayo at meron na siyang appointment ng 9 o'clock. So, Attorney Rex, inimbita natin. Hi, Attorney Rex. Attorney Rex is a maritime lawyer also na talagang nagsusulong ng modernization at tumutulong kasama ng Marina sa domestic shipping. Yan. Kaya, Attorney Rex, salamat na nandito ka at kasama makikipagbalitaktakan sa ating Anytime Maritime. Okay, balikan natin yung question ko. Ambulance chasing. Bakit makakasama ito? Paki-explain lang, Attorney Michelle, ano bang ambulance chasing? At saka bakit ba masama? Kasi kailangan malaman ng mga kababayan natin para naman pag naintindihan nila, sana makahanap tayo ng solusyon. Sige.
Yes, okay. Ambulance chasing is actually a principle in our legal ethics. In our legal ethics as lawyers, we're not supposed to entice or ano ba yung word na mas magandang word, parang to entice people in filing a lawsuit. So when there's a certain legal dispute that we know that's bound to ensue, yung lawyers nandiyan na, parang at kumbaga nagiging instrumental yung lawyer dun sa pag-create ng dispute so that a lawsuit is bound to happen. So it's the lawyer who is actually the one who is proposing to file a lawsuit against another entity. That's the concept of ambulance chasing in general. Okay, so in relating this sa maritime, of course, again, maritime, if I'm not mistaken, maritime, lalo na sa the maritime industry, in all aspects probably, whether it's a whether accident yan, whether sa labor yan, in terms of, lahat ng aspects siguro, ang maritime is very, very, talagang it's a very complicated. complicated topic. Well, first of all, kasi it's very technical eh. We cannot just, apply. Kaya we cannot claim to be, ako, for my, si Attorney Lex siguro, expert, pero I cannot claim to be an expert in maritime law kasi there are so many aspects that we have to consider. The law with respect to maritime accidents is different. Yung damages, maritime when it happens in the context of a maritime dispute is different. We have the COGSA, dami po. There's so many laws that are applicable, and there's always the interplay of public and private international law pagdating sa maritime, unless of course it's the domestic siya. But even if it's domestic, actually yun nga, because of the peculiarity of the maritime industry, it's a very complicated. The situation is already very complicated. So a lawyer who would be parang who would instigate one person in order to kasi it's like adding wood
to fire.
Fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
Yes. A lawyer who would do that would, of course, and with all this, the technicalities and the peculiarities, would, of course, kasi from the point of view of layman, hindi niya alam eh. Ano bang issues ko dito? Ano ba yung rights and obligations ko dito? Those are the things that must be discussed first before you even consider about whether you should file a suit or not. Was there any breach? Diba? Yeah. And before you even go to that, you have to identify what is my right and what is the violation.
Yeah.
Those things
what we're saying is na abuse, no? It's like abuse na taking advantage of the situation, putting the employer and the employee in between, and because of that, nasisira yung industriya. Parang in some layman's term.
Siguro let's try to come up with a good example. Although this is from the top of my head. Siguro let's say there's a dispute. There's an accident. May seafarer na bagsakan ng something, na-amputate siya, 'di ba? Let's say na-amputate, and this happened in the course of his employment ng isang foreign shipping company. So there was an accident, and the company, as we all know, the first step is always the settlement part. So there will be negotiation, and then the company will offer a certain amount, and there's it's backed up by the contract and the law that governs the parties' agreement. And usually, I'm sure, I hope it will be part of the Magna Carta, if not its implementing rules and regulations, na dapat alam kung ano yung mga i-consider kapag if an accident would happen. Meron na tayong ganyan sa labor code natin. Pero again, it's a different thing when it comes to, yun nga yung position, that's my personal position on that eh. Iba ang peculiarity ng maritime industry. So, with that, so assuming di sila si lawyer would play a very important role kasi alam niya eh, may idea siya ngayon whether is this amount reasonable, or is this amount something that's masyadong measly yung amount for the, di ba, based on what the law provides, but si lawyer, if the motivated by self-interest, would rather, sige, kaya pa natin yan, pataasin, ilaban natin, hanggang sa ilaban natin, hanggang sa umabot na sa Supreme Court, and without, yung time frame, umabot na pala ng 20 years or so, hindi pa nare-resolve ang dispute. So, that's the problem. We have to take into consideration that's why a lawyer who is very yung may empathy would play a very important role, and of course a lawyer who is accountable would also be able to give the options to the client, kasi yun yung nagiging problema. So kawawa naman ngayon yung seafarer, right? Because hindi, there's going to be a status quo eh. May status quo yan. So, until such time that there's a finality, kung magkano yung amount talaga na i-award, that's the yun lang yung doon pa lang niya maririp yung kanyang benefits under the law. So that's something that we have to consider. That's why it's very important to be aware. Yung for the seafarers or for any person, a layman should be aware of what his rights are, because sometimes lawyers would tend to undermine what are the yung practical the practicalities, and be very legalistic about it, but yun nga nagiging problema it's alright because of the self-interest. Nagiging factor po talaga yun. So I think that's something that we have also to consider.
Agree. Kaya dapat pinipili po ng maayos sinong lawyer kinukuha nyo. Kaya tingnan nyo, ang mga lawyer ko, ayan, ang gaganda at ang gagwapo, ha? Attorney Rex, gusto mong dagdagan? And I think that we should discuss this because kapag hindi po siya na-solve, mata-turn off yung mga employer sa labas na kumuha ng Pilipino, at may long-term effect po yan sa ating bayan, no? So it's not about short-term thinking but long-term thinking. If this problem is allowed to go, unregulated or walang action to stop it, this will have an effect in our manning industry. Attorney Rex, may dadagdag ka ba?
Yeah. Actually, ang ambulance chasing is basically provided lang naman sa canon ng mga lawyers, sa ethical standards ng mga lawyers. There is no law punishing actually ambulance chasing. Lawyer lang po ang napapunish dyan. Ang problema actually sa ambulance chasing, nagsisimula po yan doon sa kakulangan ng kaalaman ng mga seafarers insofar as the terms and conditions of their contract. Okay? So, if they feel they are aggrieved or may issue sila sa kontrata nila, an ambulance chaser, yung lawyer, would approach the seafarer, tapos bibigyan siya ng paniniwala na you can claim more than what is provided in your contract. Instead of settling it with the company, ng employer niya or agency niya, maniniwala siya ngayon sa lawyer. And most common sa mga lawyers actually, na engage into ambulance chasing, ang purpose lang naman yan is kumita sila. Bakit pinagbabawal sa ethical standard ng lawyers? Because lawyering is not a trade. It's not a business. Kaya you should not engage into an active na paghahanap ng mga kliyente. Hindi ka nagpo-promote ng mga kaso, especially yung mga kaso na walang basihan, just for the sake of having a client and maka-earn ka as a lawyer. Doon po nag-uugat ang ambulance chasing. Siguro ang isang solusyon dyan sa ambulance chasing is alamin talaga ng seafarer what are the terms and conditions. And before they sign, actually, the employment contract, there is a provision sa PUA contract that they can consult a lawyer before they accede to the terms and conditions of the agreement, of their employment. So, doon sana magsisimula yan para maiwasan nila later on ang ambulance chasing. Second solution probably is to criminalize ambulance chasing. Yun siguro ang naiisip. And hopefully, I don't know sa Magna Carta kung may provisions dyan prohibiting ambulance chasing and imposing penalty if a lawyer is engaged in such practice, illicit practice.
Yeah, actually okay din siguro no, attorney, na kapag halimbawa, well, I'm not sure though kasi this goes into the implementation given that meron na tayo Magna Carta, the framework is there. So I'm sure in the next few years there will be ito na yung mga IRR and the issuances, 'di ba? Ng pwedeng under the Marina and any other concerned government agency. Baka nga pwede nila na all contracts, even foreign commercial contracts should be, I don't know if it's being done now. Pero all contracts should have certain yung mga mandatory provisions. Kasi yung governed by the nationality principle pa rin yung seafarer eh. As 'di ba, being a Filipino, even though he's entering into employment contract assuming with a foreign entity, dapat the government itself would already be the one to impose the mandatory provision. So ito yung mga absolutely dapat nandyan. 'Di ba? Na para they cannot also avoid the foreign shipping company cannot also avoid being bound by these provisions, because these are these are to ensure the protection of the seafarer, 'di ba? In the same way, ma-avoid din natin yung mga ambulance chasers na yan, kasi the government itself is already implementing that sort of yung parang checks and balances pagdating sa review ng employment contract ng kontrata ng mga seafarers. I think that's something that they can do. Diba? It addresses
actually, for international seafarers, the provisions of the contract approve yan ng POEA. What we call standard POEA contract, which is basically ang standard doon is na isabatas na yan. Kaya siya na-incorporate. The problem actually sets in the interpretation sa application ng provisions ng contract given a particular incident or accident on board.
Yeah. And that's where the lawyer comes in.
Yeah, pumapasok. I think ang isa pang magandang solusyon to prevent ambulance chasing is for government to come up with a mechanism na hindi parang into litigation yung pagsettle ng dispute. Probably there can be an administrative agency, say POEA, wherein a seafarer can approach, doon siya pwedeng manghingi ng tulong, and then kahit paano may ipin yung administrative agency na yon to implement the POEA contract. Not necessarily go to the process yung pagkakaso sa Department of Labor. Isa yun sa mga solusyon. How to prevent an ambulance chaser?
Actually, the thing the law provides that, and I think it's being practiced now also, through arbitration in the exercise of quasi-judicial function ng concerned government agency, yung pag-resolve ng disputes. But then, kasi a problem doon, from the quasi-judicial function nila, na-appeal kasi siya sa judicial bodies. So, nagiging litigious siya after a while. So, actually, as I've di ba, boss, that's during our discussion, sabi ko nga magandang salain, i-dissect yung law to check how it would also address the current issues, the current problems that are being faced by our seafarers right now. So kasi ngayon, it's alternative mechanisms for dispute resolution are actually being promoted internationally. So we have the Singapore Convention on Mediation, and we have yung mga conciliation, negotiation. These are actually parang alternatives to litigation, because litigation would really take time before before you can get a final and executory decision, and most often than not, they're not being executed. In at least for some aspects of legal disputes, hindi na-execute. That's why it's important that our listeners, the audience, and the public know about that. What are my alternatives? What are the options available to me? Because there are so many. And yeah,
agree ako dyan, Attorney Michelle. And that's a frustration for a lot of people na halimbawa may isa-slap sa atin na batas o policy, but hindi tayo binibigyan ng option, no? What to do. So I'm glad to hear that. At ako, nagka-aha moment ako habang nagsasalita ka, Attorney Michelle. I'm doing my PhD now at the World Maritime University on sustainability of our human capital in the Philippines, and that's one solution to sustainability of human capital, making it known that there's option for arbitration, resolution.
Alternative modes of dispute resolution, because at the end of the day, the law is there, yes, that's the framework, but when it's already the person involved, right? The law becomes a mere na lang siya parang nagiging basis, reference na lang siya. Nagiging reference na lang siya. So I think the law should be exhaustive enough to comprehend what are the options available to a seafarer. When case a dispute comes, ito yung mga, kasi when the law already provides it, there's no more, kumbaga mas konti yung room for interpretation, and nagkakaroon ng mas less din yung dispute because it's already there. The law already provides it. Attorney, bakit kailangan natin mag-file agad ng case sa bakit, 'di ba? Bakit litigation agad? Nakalagay dito, pwede pala yung ganito. Baka pwede natin i-consider magkano kaya yung option na, magkano kaya yung pwede nilang i-offer sa atin. Things like that, 'di ba? So, I think it would be kasi all of this naman without the lawyer's advice is also limited so without the awareness of the other party, especially the one affected, 'di ba?
Yeah.
Yung interested party talaga, it's very important na nandiyan yung awareness and knowledge na. That's actually my advocacy, boss. Kaya nung nagsabi kayo, hindi ako nagdalawang isip. Sabi ko, sige po, just to be able to, share as much information as I can. Diba?
Totoo yan, Attorney Michelle. Dito sa Anytime Maritime, gusto natin na pagka tapos nilang manood at sumama sa atin, they come out a better, better as a person, as a maritime industry advocate. Kasama yan. Kasi talagang goal natin yan. Kaya, nako, salamat na nandito ka. Attorney Michelle, 9:07, if you have to go, you let us know because we, of course,
last question na lang, ma'am.
Okay, sige, go at GM.
For
Welcome.
Attorney Michelle, and of course, we would like to welcome Attorney Rex Tupas sa Anytime Maritime in today's episode, December 5, 2023, edition of our Anytime Maritime. I think, kasi si Attorney Rex kanina mentioned about ito mga kontrata na ito, parang there is this existence of a pro forma contract na ginagabayan ng POEA. Ngayon ay parang isang department na siya, isang kagawaran, no? Department of Migrant Workers, which nakikita natin matagal na itong quote-unquote enshrined o institutionalized. Kaya lang siguro marami rin ang butas na batas, marami ang loopholes, kaya marami pa rin ang problema. May mga ambulant chasing, kung minsan ang mga kawawang Filipino seafarers sa sobrang desperation sa matagal na training, matagal na paperwork, masyado magastos, nawawala ng pangbaon, allowances sa Manila, sige katambay dyan, forced to good, mapilitan na lang pumirma ng kontrata kahit napakababa ng sasahurin, napakababa ng level sa barko at walang sapat na protection. Here comes this pending Magna Carta for Filipino seafarers before the two houses of Congress. Question: sa dalawang mga magigiting natin mga abogado, do you think itong Magna Carta for Filipino seafarers, once approved and becomes a law, makakatulong ito para mas lalo nating ma-address ito mga pinag-uusapan natin mga problema?
Tony Rex, you wanna go first?
Ladies first.
Okay. Sige. Let's answer the question of Sir Alex. And I'd like to answer it in relation to the law itself. Section 60, employment contract. Sir, okay lang? Section 60, employment contract. There shall be an agreement in writing between the ship owner and the seafarer following the SEC prescribed under Section 28 of this Act. The employment contract shall be executed by and between the ship owner and the seafarer before the commencement of employment in English or translated in the language known to both parties. The ship owner shall provide the domestic seafarer with the signed original copy of the contract and a certified true copy shall be made available on board the ship. The DMW shall keep a copy of the employment contract between the ship owner and the domestic seafarer. Just a second, I'll just look at Section 28. Tingnan natin if what yung answer sa tanong mo, sir. Teka lang, ha? Tingnan sa Section 28. Section 28. Okay.
Kaninong version yan, attorney?
Saan ito, sir? This is the latest Senate Bill 2221.
Okay.
Ito, Section 28, Standard Employment Contract, or the SEC. An SEC between the ship owner and the seafarer shall be in writing and shall include but not be limited to full name, date, birth, record book, identity, address, date and place of execution, duration, point of hire, capacity, amount of the salary, maximum number of hours, wages, compensation, social security benefits, stipulation on repatriation, separation pay, reference to the CBA, other benefits, termination. Indefinite condition is, okay, wait lang, sir, voyage, employment contract shall be in English, translated. One shipper shall have a signed original. Okay, the DMW shall issue an SEC containing the minimum standards of seafarers' employment for ocean-going Philippine or foreign registered ships, which shall be subject to review and regularly updated to ensure its conformity with the MLC 2006 and other existing treaties and conventions governing seafarers. Okay. So, looking at that, the employment contract, the law provides what are the important considerations, or what are the basic requirements that should be included in the employment contract, and that the minimum standards should be complied with. Sinasabi din dito na dapat meron ng minimum standards kung ano yung mga dapat na i-include. But again, we don't know the level of compliance pagdating sa mga foreign ship owners, mga foreign employers. So while the law provides that, this is the law is actually, if you can see, it's very, kumbaga yung the way that it's written, it's matter of factly. Diba? Ito yung mga kailangan nyo ilagay. Well, with regard to the compliance, we don't know yet. So it's something that, while yun po yung sinasabi ko kanina, that while the law is ideally it wants to be able to address the issues that it needs to address, ang question dyan would be the post once the law has taken effect, ano yung level of compliance dyan, and ano yung gagawin ng lawmakers natin in order, and enforcement agencies, in order to ensure that the policy of the law is faithfully carried out. Diba? Kasi, okay, nakalagay dito, but the problem is, susundin ba?
Correct.
Ngayon, yung review actually, sir, that would address the problem. Nakalagay dito review, but what is that? Ano yung nire-review? Ano yung ina-update? Is it a standard pro format contract template na yes, ina-update siya every time, pero hindi naman pala ginagamit ng mga commercial operators natin? Di ano ding silbi, no? wala rin siyang practical effect. So that's one thing that we have to take into consideration. The law is there for a reason, and we need to be able to carry it out effectively. The only way to do that is to come up with a policy that would really enforce it. So para ma-ensure yung compliance. Kasi yun dun po nagkakaproblema. So I hope that answered the question, sir.
Yeah, I guess what we're saying is importante na alam din ng mga seafarer yung standard, at they have to be in the know. Ibig sabihin, pag hindi mo alam yung batas, that doesn't excuse you.
Yes.
Diba? That's why we are trying to inform and invite everyone to be our listeners to be in the know. Attorney Rex, may dadagdag ka ba? Yes. Ano yun, Attorney Michelle?
Si Attorney Rex po na. Sige, go ahead,
Ladies
sir.
first now. Ladies first now. Gentleman siya.
Attorney Michelle, tapusin mo na yung mo.
Okay, so
statement mo muna.
Yeah, that's the first step. So the law provides what should be included. Okay, so then but again, it will come late. So the seafarer can actually make sure na okay, ito dapat nandito. You can refer to Section 28 of the Magna Carta once it's passed. You refer to it, and then that's the first part. Pag merong wala dyan, insist on it. Diba? According to the law, this should be written in my contract. Insist on it. So that's another step. Pag ayaw ni operator, alam nyo na gagawin. Alam nyo na. But that should already be a red flag. Diba? So on the part of the seafarer, you can do something, right? And then of course, yung pagdating dun sa enforcement and compliance on the part of our government agencies, that's their duty naman. Pero yun,
Okay.
para alam din natin yung may magagawa tayo.
Thank you, Attorney Michelle. Before Attorney Rex, no, I want to get his take tungkol dito. Pero meron ako isang, just pumasok lang bigla. Kanina, nung wala pa si Attorney Rex Tupas sa communication line ng Anytime Maritime, with Attorney Michelle, we discussed about how the bill becomes a law. At ngayon, nasa process of harmonizing, consolidating all these Senate and House versions, which were already approved on third and final reading in both houses. Nasa final stage na sila ng consolidation at to harmonize into only one version. Question. Doon sa committee hearings, committee deliberations, bago dumating sa third and final reading sa plenaryo ang approval, pwede pa doon ang lobby group mag-insist. Yan ang sinabi ni Attorney Michelle kanina, which struck the instance of this point na doon sa deliberation ng committee bago mag-plenary ay allowed ang lobby group, which maritime sectors, to insist, to suggest, and to come up with their own amendatory versions subject to the approval of the committee. Now, dito na tayo sa consolidation at MICAM conference ng Magna Carta, which I don't think na pwede pa mag-insist ang lobby group dyan. Kasi pag sinabing MICAM, hindi na pwedeng pasukan yan ng hindi kongresista at hindi senador, lalong-lalo na hindi miyembro ng komitiba. Ang dalawang kapulungan ng Kongreso, uupuan niya ng mga may kinalaman sa usapin tungkol sa pending na batas. So anong take dito ni Attorney Rex Tupas? Paano pa tayo mag-insist dyan? Paano pa natin may singit? Yung nakikita natin na wala pala sa sinulat na Magna Carta, which is pending for approval. Attorney Rex?
Good morning, Sir JM. Long time no hear.
Kaya nga,
ganito lang.
lalo kang pumata.
May kababayan.
Kaya nga.
Anyway, the way I see it, Magna Carta for Seafarers actually just codifies the existing regulations that would be applied to seafarers. Kung titingnan ninyo, the provisions of Magna Carta for Seafarers is couched in general terms. Now, if there is no chance for lobbyists, especially for interest groups like seafarers, dahil sila talagang apektado, to make amendments or propose changes dyan sa BICAM, ang pinakasolusyon po dyan is for them nabantayan nila doon sa pag-come up ng IRR and other related regulation. Kasi kung ako titingin ho, doon kanina like sa tanong, makaka-benefit po ba itong Magna Carta for Seafarers? Being an active participant sa mga pag-come up ng mga legislation na tulad nito, basic ho kasi yan na pag ginawa yung batas, especially by our Congress, it is couched in general terms. Number one, para iwasan nila yung mga controversial na mga provisions and leave it to the agencies na makipag-usap sa mga affected parties by coming up with the implementing rules and regulations. And itong batas na to, it only sets the principles kung anong mga gagawin ng mga agencies natin like DFA, PUEA, Marina, CHED. So, kung ang tanong, makaka-benefit po ba? Yes, kasi it sets the tone But basically, if it will redound to a specific benefit for seafarer, ang aabangan po natin is the implementing rules and regulation. Ngayon, nakadepende ho yan kung may champion ho tayo. Diyan ho sa pag-come up ng implementing rules and regulation, a lot of agencies will participate. The question now is, gaano sila ka-expert? At saka, saan ba ang puso nila? Nasa seafarer ba? Or
Correct.
ang mindset nila is nandun sa posisyon na we have to regulate, we have to regulate. Doon yan ang magdidikta kung makaka-benefit ba specifically ang seafarers o hindi. Kasi sa lahat ng version na binasa ko ng Magna Carta for Seafarers, marami ng revisions na ginawa na actually iniwasan yung mga initial provisions na medyo controversial. Which is tama naman, so that may flexibility ang mga agencies to come up with implementing rules and regulations. But that implementing rules and regulations should not go out from the general principles and parameters set by the Magna Carta. Ganun po sana the way siya, ang mechanism natin. Aabangan po natin yan hanggang sa pag-come up ng implementing rules and regulation.
I agree.
Yeah.
1001% because sa lawmaking, although experience ko local legislation lang, ang author ng proposed legislation has the monopoly of his and her interpretation.
True.
Kaya yung sinasabi ni Atty. Rex na dapat doon sa pag-craft ng IRR, sabihin natin technical working group yan o ano yan, may eksperto. At maliban sa eksperto, may puso. Kasi ang pinag-uusapan natin dito, seafarers. Baka ito Magna Carta, makapabor lang ito sa mga operators ng malalaking barko. Makapabor lang ito sa mga shipbuilders. At hindi naman, bihado naman ang interest ng mga seafarers, no? Which I believe, kagaya ng Archipelago Shipping ni Madam Founder ng Anytime Maritime, ito may puso ito. May damdamin ito para sa mga seafarers. Nakikita natin yan dyan eh. Ilang beses ako napunta dyan how we're able to protect and to maintain decency. Ang mahalaga man lang sa lawmaking, hindi lang ang espiritu ng batas, ang pagiging decente, integridad, at ang batas ay realistic na matugunan ang pangangailangan ng bawat isa. Kasi ang batas ay magiging walang saysay kung ang batas ay hindi na siya reflective, hindi pa siya responsive sa pangangailangan ng tao.
GM,
Tama ba,
Alex?
Michelle?
Tama, sir.
Yeah, go Attorney Rex.
Yeah, actually isang usapin dyan na dapat talaga tingnan natin is the applicability of Magna Carta, of the bill, of the law. Saan po ba mag-a-apply itong mga provisions niya? Will it apply to all seafarers or nakaseparate po dyan ang provisions for international seafarers and for domestic seafarers? Kasi may mga version po niyan na nakalagay, dinefine nila what is domestic seafarer as against the Filipino seafarers. Okay? Ang term nila na ginamit for international seagoing seafarers is Filipino seafarers. At ang mga version na nakita ko actually, ang applicability niya more on the international seafarers, hindi sa domestic seafarer. Yun sana ang titingnan din natin kung ano bang version ang naipasa ng both house and later on, ano ang lalabas sa final bill na isasubmit nila, sa enrolled bill na isasubmit nila sa presidente for signature. Kasi it would affect a lot kung hindi nila gagawa niya ng distinction for domestic or international seafarer. Kasi actually, kaya yan nagka-come up ng Magna Carta, it's not only because of the absence of a specific law applying for domestic for seafarer. But actually, this is a means to close the gap ng Maritime Labor Convention vis-a-vis our national law. 2006 pa po ang Maritime Labor Convention and I think it comes into force. Ang entry niya sa Pilipinas is sometime 2012 or 2013. But actually, nung ginagawa po namin, kasama po ako sa technical working group, nung ginagawa po yung compliance sana natin with Maritime Labor Convention, the list na na-come up namin is just to copy the existing labor standards. Hindi ginawa na lang po, hindi siya strictly na-apply ang Maritime Labor Convention for domestic seafarers because of certain impossibility sa mga conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, kaya nga may tinatawag na substantial compliance for domestic seafarers or domestic maritime sector. So yun ang naabangan natin.
Naku talaga, Attorney Rex, dapat abangan at dapat sana magtulong-tulong tayo na magawa yan sa lalong madaling panahon because that will really be a solution to a lot of our problems, no? So, ang dami ko nagigets sa inyong lahat and ang dami ding question. Meron ng mga private message sa akin na basahin daw.
Isa na lang, ma'am.
Sige, isa pa daw, sabi ni GM. Pero marami.
Binanggit kasi ni Attorney Rex, yung definition of terms. Kasi bawat batas, for purposes of that law, or passing the law, ang definition of terms ay nagkakaiba yan. Depende sa interpretasyon nga ng mga authors. Dito sa Rafi Tulfo version, Senate Bill, ang definition ng seafarers, walang Filipino, walang international. Isa lang, beg nga ito eh. Tingin ko beg. Ang sabi rito, seafarers refers to, as defined, Filipino, who is to be employed, is employed, or is engaged to work in any capacity on board a ship covered under this act. Ito mas medyo kumbaga sa mas malabo pa ito. Very big ito. Wala na classify, wala na define ano ang domestic at international Filipino seafarers. Inisa lang ang definition, basta Pilipino ka na employed, to be employed, or engaged. Sakay ka ng barko.
Yes.
So, I hope hindi ang version na ito, ang definition na ito, ang kukunin ng pag-harmonize ng batas.
Actually,
okay,
sir, the bill is actually, nandun sa coverage niya, na it covers both internationally employed seafarers and the domestic seafarers. So actually, it poses a problem, of course, kasi nga, ibig sabihin, I don't know kaya that's why it's very important, tama, bantayan yung mga, yung IRR at saka yung mga issue. That will open the room for public consultation But the law has to be flexible enough to welcome yung mga concerns na ganito. Kasi ang problem na nakikita ko dito, situated similarly ang domestic at international shipping, which is, as we know, hindi dapat. Diba? For many reasons. Although parehas lang naman na dagat yan, but for reasons that are, for certain considerations. Diba?
Example, Attorney Michelle, I can give a very, very clear example because nung lumabas naging enforce yung MLC sa atin, binasa ko talaga yan. Talagang masinsin na pagbabasa. So, hindi siya applicable sa atin, sa bayan natin, example, because domesticize yung sweldo natin Sumusunod tayo dito sa Philippine law. So, hindi siya applicable. So, pag nire-raise ko sa IMO, sa lahat ng conference a-attendan ko, pupunta ako doon sa IMO representative at least i-discuss ko to. Alam mo, titingnan nila ako, sasabihin nila, it has to be Filipina, di ba? Parang Filipinized. Itutugma natin doon sa ating batas. Hindi para bang merong convention, tapos yun na yun. Tapos in our head, interpret natin na applicable siya. It has to be applicable in our country. And who else will do it but us? We don't depend on IMO to work on those details for us. We do it because tayo yung Pilipino. So minsan ang nagre-restrict sa atin, yung policy na ganyan, na ini-interpret natin, when it is not really in reality,
yes, that's
Yes, applicable to our country. And then second point ko na gusto ko idagdag sa sinabi ni Attorney Rex is that's why we are being very active in Philippine Inter-Island Shipping Association, in Philippine Ro-Ro Operators Association. Yan po si Attorney, napakasigasig niyan mag-attend ng mga ano tawag ba dyan? Industry groups, so that ito na po yung magiging lobbyist, GM Alex, at sila po yung grupo na unang kinukonsulta ng ating mga regulators like Marina tuwing bago sila magpasa ng circular. Sometimes, hindi ko naman sinasabing palagi, sometimes ginagawa nila yung mga hearing just for the sake of doing it, but not really sincerely listening and considering ano po yung kalagayan natin. Hindi ko naman pinapalagi. I'm not here to bash and manira po, no? But I'm just saying na yun po minsan yung nangyayari. And how we wish na hindi ganon. Sana po talaga i-consider natin kung ano talaga yung pangangailangan ng industriya, because that is the only way that the industry can be sustainable. Diba? Yung talagang kinonsider natin to, and then inisip natin yung healthy environment for the business to thrive so that sustainable yon. After all, sino po bang sumasakay sa barko? Dito sa domestic, diba? And even globally. And dadagdag ko sa sinabi ni GM Alex bago ko makalimutan about Magna Carta, parang hindi naman yan, parang in favor lang ba yan sa may-ari ng barko or sa manning. Believe you me when I tell you, in many of the maritime conferences that I attended, that the international shipping community loves the seafarers. They care for seafarers. Kung meron man po na iilang nang aabuso, talagang ilan lang yan. Very, very konti. Pero, nasa sa atin nga yan, nakilalanin natin. So, ang babalik ako sa iniisip ko nung nag-discuss kayo, sino ba kung ako yung seafarer, ano ba ang measure para alam ko na yung kausap kong manning agency ay sumusunod doon sa standard contract, sumusunod sa global convention. Yung bang POEA accreditation in itself is gauge para masabi na okay itong manning agency na to. Yun ba yun? Pwede ba? Ganun ba yun? Kasi syempre, you wanna make it simple for people to understand. Parang okay, saan eh. Minsan,
isa pa, ma'am. Isa pa. Alam mo, napakahalaga talaga ng episode na ito. Si Attorney Rex Tupas, isa sa mga, as he mentioned, kabilang sa technical working group, at madalas kinokonsulta ng mga regulators natin, so with our lawmakers. Now, para magkakaroon ng addendum, bakit hindi i-introduce itong mga panibagong regulasyon, ang Magna Carta, kung magiging batas ito, sa pamamagitan ng CHED, i-introduce na magiging part and parcel ito ng instructional material sa mga maritime schools. So that bago sila gumraduate, alam na nila kung ano ang kanilang patutunguhan. Ano ang kanilang karapatan, ano ang pwede, ano ang hindi pwede, at ano ang timing para sa kanila para hindi sila maabuso sa training stage pa lang once they get out of the respective maritime schools. What do you think, Attorney Rex?
Yes, I do agree that this should be included sa curriculum actually. Kung titingnan mo sa tertiary level sa mga college, merong subject na maritime law. However, isi-segue ko na supposed to be topic ko. However, maritime law actually is so broad. Kung titingnan mo na i-discuss mo yan sa isang seafarer, ang papasok sa utak niya, ba't ko pag-aaralan ito? Ba't ako magsasayang? Magbabarko lang naman ako. They don't see the importance of the understanding nung basic na batas sa pagmamarino. Nagiging interesado lang sila sa maritime law the moment they encounter certain issues, especially when it comes to their benefits. Kung titingnan mo kasi ang maritime law, complex siya. Number one, it is domestic, and it is also international. Kung titingnan mo, ang dami. Since domestic and international, merong international maritime organization that comes up with treaties, come up with conventions that are applicable sa maritime industry. Sa domestic naman, meron tayong Marina, meron tayong Coast Guard, meron tayong PPA and other agencies involved. So kung wala kang overview, hindi mo siya maiintindihan ano ang uunahin ko, ano ang importante dito, ano ang mag-i-interest sa akin. Kaya isi-segue ko na kung titingnan mo para madaling intindihan ng isang seafarer, ang maritime law, may apat po na pillars yan. Sa dami-dami ng conventions at maritime law, international and domestic, kung titingnan ninyo siya, the way you appreciate it, apat lang po ang pillars ng international maritime law. At ang pinag-uusapan natin about seafarers, yung mga benefits nila, yung Magna Carta na yan, isa lang sa mga pillars yan, yung Maritime Labor Convention. Okay? Aside from Maritime Labor Convention, may tatlo pa po. Yung SOLAS, yung pollution, at saka yung isa pa sa mga pinaka-importante is the STCW.
Yeah.
STCW. So ito yung apat actually na pillars ng maritime law na dapat pag-aaralan ng isang seafarer. And alam ko, supposed to be ito sa maritime law na i-discuss ng mga instructors nila before they graduate. Sa third year yata tinuturo yung maritime law. Only that, yung curriculum at saka yung magtuturo, they should be trained how to simplify this convention, these laws, na maintindihan in a layman's term para ma-appreciate at magka-interest ang bata, yung estudyante, para pagdating ng panahon kung talagang itutuloy niya na magmamarino siya, may overview na siya ng mga basic na batas na mag-a-apply kung saan siya magtatrabaho.
Precisely.
Yeah, nice. Sana may nakikinig sa atin at i-consider talaga na madagdag sa curriculum even in high school, pati maritime high school, no? Pwede naman sa totoo lang pwede. Anyway, kailangan na po natin tanungin ng mga question.
Bigyan ko na ako, Atty. Rex, ng mga notes about maritime law, kaya ako na lang mag-lecture dito sa radyo.
Ayan.
Para makatulong tayo.
Pwede.
Hindi lang anytime maritime. I can have that as a topic also. Yes.
Actually, nandito yan sa programa natin. We will have a guest sa yun sa decarb, no? Decarbonization. That's one of MARPOL. And then I know we will have a guest from the Philippine Coast Guard also on marine environment in our future episodes. Sana abangan po yan ng ating mga listeners. Okay, Mika, itanong mo na ang mga tanong. Oy, Attorney Michelle, salamat na nagsistay ka, ha? Alam namin na konti na lang naman. Okay, kami nga ni Attorney Rex, late kami dun sa aming leadership meeting. Okay, go! Mika, i-flash mo na ang tanong. Sapagkat, ayan, okay, the BICAM today is specific for Magna Carta. Okay, na-discuss na natin yan. Carmela, thank you for your question. Nasa hearing na siya. Na-discuss mo na yan, Attorney Michelle? So kung hini-hear na siya sa BICAM today, ano ba ang timeline sa tingin mo, Attorney Michelle? From the time na ngayon dinidinig sa Kamara, anong possibility, anong timeline na tinitingnan ng mga marino?
Well, the timeline, it's very hard to answer that, boss, kasi there's no clear timetable for the law to be passed. And then after that, what happens next, diba? Walang ganon. So it really depends on how the lobbyists, how yung proponents natin would be able to
push.
Yes, to push it.
So, kaya napakahalaga na binoboto natin yung tamang tamang mambabatas. Ibig sabihin, responsibilidad natin na mag-lobby, for the maritime industry. Alam natin na may mga party list for maritime. So, dapat talaga ang binoboto natin dyan ay yung mga talaga may puso at nakakaintindi at alam ang industriya. Diba? Okay, my next question. One of the issues about the Tulfo version of the Magna Carta for Filipino seafarers and pagkatanggal ng escrow provision sa lower house version ni Kong Salo. Okay. Ano po ba yung version ano ba yung provision yung escrow provision? Yan. Attorney Michelle, alam mo ba yun?
Actually, hindi ko pala, I was able to encounter that during my research post. Pero wait lang, I'll check it. Baka si
Attorney Rex, alam mo ba yan? Alam ko yung sa escrow kasi sabi nila sa manning agency, taasan yung, okay. Attorney Rex, take it away. O, so kaya, anyway,
ang pagkaintindi ko.
Yeah, well, I wanted to say na hindi to fake. So people na nakikinig sa atin, nakita nyo hindi kami fake news ha. Kasi nakita nyo, they are referring to a source, no? And the source is the legacy.senate.gov.ph. Okay, sige. Attorney Rex, take it away. Ano ba tong escrow provision?
Ang pagkaintindi ko dyan sa escrow is example, ang isang seafarer or may claim and later on it ripens into a case. Kung may award, the seafarer cannot automatically get yung monetary award sa kanya. There is a certain period of time na gagawin mo ng escrow. Parang interest lang muna yung pera. So hindi niya pa pwedeng gawin. Unlike in the current regime, actually sa DOLE, the moment sa level ng labor arbiter, once a seafarer got a favorable decision sa kaso niya, halimbawa inawardan na siya ng nanalo siya and then may monetary award, there is actually a certain provision na pwede mong makuha yan even if the case is still on appeal. Di ba, Attorney Michelle?
Yeah.
Pero in this case, sa provision ng proposed Magna Carta law, kung naka-escrow ang pera, even if may finality na yata, is hindi pa makukuha ng seafarer. Yun ang nirereklamo ng mga seafarer. Isa actually sa very controversial na provisions yan ng batas.
Okay. So
I don't know later on sa BICAM, I don't know I think yan ang magiging mainit na usapin dyan sa BICAM. And I don't know kung anong posisyon ng bawat houses, ng Senate and the House of Representatives. Kasi kung hindi nila yan mariresolve sa BICAM, lalong tatagal yan. Babalik sila sa houses nila and to confer with their colleagues kung ano ba talaga ang mga concessions na pwede nilang gawin to
Attorney
accommodate.
Rex and Attorney Michelle and Ma'am Marian, which do you think is better, ilagay pa rin itong escrow o tanggalin ang naka-escrow na amount vis-a-vis doon sa claim ng isang seafarer kung sakaling ito siya ay nasa kalagitnaan ng pakikipaglaban ng kanyang karapatan?
Siguro, Sir Alex, if I can answer, Boss Saka,
Yes,
or Rex, this is just what I know based on, kasi when reading through it, basically the escrow is actually meant to protect the award in case of reversal. Right? In case merong dispute, nagkasuhan, tapos nagkaroon ng reversal. Kasi ganito yung nangyayari sa labor disputes natin. Usually, since almost all disputes are resolved in favor of the worker or the laborer, ang tendency niyan, syempre, even if magkaroon ng reversal, and that's very, very, very minimal lang yun. It rarely happens. Ang nangyayari, hindi na, yung restitution, hindi na talaga nababalik yun. But, we don't expect, right, the employer to restitute the award that was erroneously given, right, by the court. So, the escrow provision is, based on that, is actually meant to protect the operator. Diba? Based on that. Kasi ine-escrow mo ngayon eh. So, paano ngayon yung aksidente? Paano yung Wala silang immediate recourse because the labor code actually provides that it has to be immediately executory. The grant of the award is immediately executory even dun pa lang sa labor arbiter provision. So, relating it to the Magna Carta, once it's escrowed, hindi mo magagalaw yung judgment award. And that, of course, we know the disadvantage of that insofar as the concerned seafarer is concerned, diba? So, pero come to think of it din naman, on the other hand, if we were going to put into perspective the legal principles, on the part of the employer naman, pagka Oo nga naman, there's kumbaga kung halimbawa nabigay na ano mo na naging executory na yung judgment award, a reversal would actually poses no ano na, parang wala na siyang what's the point of appealing, right? If in the first place it has already been executed. Okay, 'di ba? Wala na. So there's no more kumbaga ano na lang 'yan, for principles na lang kumbaga. So but then if you ask me, my interest is actually for in this scenario as for the seafarer because regardless of what the merits of the law provides, if a seafarer finds himself or herself in a situation where he or she is rendered incapable of functioning according to yung kumbaga his usual state, and it happens under the premises dun sa premises ng under the working conditions kung saan siya nilagay ng employer niya. It's kumbaga ano na lang yun eh. It's just a financial however we want to see it. It's a financial support, 'di ba? Whether may merit, kumbaga the law is just technicalities lang 'yan. 'Di ba? Tanggalin mo yung pag-aaral na ano, it's human, and at the end of the day, it's all boils down to the natural obligation of being human.
So hindi pa rin natin masasabi, both attorneys, na ang provision which provides for an escrow as a mechanism, hindi ito one-way na interpretasyon ng batas. Ito ay para sa protection ng both parties. My position is that it's I have to be firm na it's for the protection of the operator. Okay. Obvious naman.
Yeah.
For the operator.
Meron po tayong comment sa ating mga nanonood from Reno Bolivar. Thank you for this comment. The escrow deposit provision requires employers to provide a financial security deposit to ensure that they can fulfill their contractual obligations to their seafarers. This deposit serves as a safeguard for the seafarers' rights and welfare, including their entitlement to compensation for injuries or illness sustained while on board.
We already addressed that through the bond. There's a posting of a bond prior to the appeal.
Okay.
That's a requirement. So the escrow is really, kumbaga the function of the escrow, hindi mo magagalaw. So tama naman yung pino-point out dun sa committee na if we put this escrow here, it will amend the provision that it has to be, the decision should be final and executory. Diba? Kasi bawal galawin eh. Okay. That's my take on that.
Yeah. Okay. Attorney Rex, may dadagdag ka pa ba?
Yun ma'am, we have to see the specific provisions sa escrow na i-carry nila sa magiging enrolled bill. We don't know if it will only be limited on securing the performance ng employers, contractual obligations niya, or will it cover yung obligations ng isang employer the moment there will be dispute between the employer and the seafarer. So titingnan natin ano magko-cover ng escrow na yan.
Last question na lang kasi very interesting itong escrow na ito. Si Attorney Michelle maintained the contention na para ito sa proteksyon ng mga operator. Now, tanungin ko ngayon si Attorney Rex Tupas, wala na bang mas medyo moderate pa na word sa escrow na magkakaroon naman ng patas na labanan ang operator at ang kanyang seafarers? Wala na bang pwedeng i-substitute sa escrow na word na yan?
Pwede siguro bond.
Bond, okay. Medyo moderate siya, no?
But kung titingnan nyo...
Kasi pag sinabing escrow, as maintained by Attorney Michelle, malupit talaga. Kasi nakikita mo one way siya para sa operator. Which kung bond naman, sa bagay, nomenclature lang naman yan. Binago lang ang kataga. Pero I mean, in matters of lawmaking, attorney, wala namang remedyo yan para magiging win-win.
Yeah. Actually, ginamit kaya nila, ang understanding ko niyan, ang pagkatanda ko, the reason why they use the term escrow, kasi yan ang internationally accepted, kumbaga, na financial term or mechanism on securing a certain obligation. Mas kilala kasi ang escrow sa international eh. Kaya nag-resort yan sa terminologies na yan at sa scheme na yan, because remember, ang involved dito, ang affected parties basically are international entities. Okay? Although may mga manning agencies dito, but may mga principals pa yan, and the seafarers actually are, ang mostly covered yan are internationally seagoing seafarers. Kaya yan ginamit ang escrow na mechanism.
Kaya lang ang escrow, scarecrow para sa seafarers.
Yeah, actually for the seafarer.
Ma'am, malapit ng escrow ang oras natin, ma'am. Ilang minuto na lang.
Oo nga. Sir, just to add, baka lang sakali. I mean, sige, granting na diba? Just to level the playing field between the operator and the seafarer. Pero kasi yun nga from the point of view of the labor code kasi ako, as a litigator, I know that there's already a bond that answers for before the operator can take an appeal, may bond yan. So, that already answers for the security. Kaya yung escrow, ang understanding ko talaga doon is, it's meant to address yung in case of reversal. So, kapag nanalo ngayon si operator on appeal level, hindi mo na kasi ma-restitute yung nagastos mo na. Kasi immediately executory Yun yung purpose ng escrow. That's my understanding. But if, just to level, the playing field, kasi nga, in a way, sige, let's say, medyo hindi patas pagdating sa employer, siguro, what they can escrow is a certain amount. Diba? So for whatever amount is due to the seafarer because of the certain whatever it is, yung if there's an accident or whatsoever, that should be immediately executed. A portion of it, kung ano yung ina-appeal, maybe perhaps that should be the subject of the escrow. So in case damages, moral damages, any amount that's not immediately necessary to answer for the needs of the seafarer could be put on escrow. I mean, that's something that kasi we can be as creative as we can. That's the beauty of crafting the law. We have to be able to anticipate and comprehend all the possibilities para malaman natin kung ano ba talaga yung makakapag-address dun sa problem.
May naisip akong idea para magbago tuluyan ng landscape ng maritime industry. Somebody from Anytime Maritime, pwede natin i-transform ito balang araw into a party list. Anytime Maritime party list. Para isa sa inyo magiging representante sa Kamara. That way, may assurance tayo na ang mga future na batas to be crafted ay batas na may puso para sa mga seafarers. Maraming salamat sa inyo dalawa. Ang gagaling niyo. Believe ako.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Oh, Ma'am Marian, sana founder natin.
Naka-disconnect pa yata si Boss Ann.
Kaya nga, recommend ko pa sana siya mag-party list representative.
Ayan na.
Actually, I want our listening people to hear from me that we're not interested in that. No? So, I mean, hindi po natin ginagawa to because interesado tayong pumasok sa politika. No, that's not in the radar. It's not in the radar. Okay, I'm just saying it's not in the radar. We're doing this because we want to help the industry in any way we can. Opo. Pero to help the industry, to increase awareness, to benefit the industry. Kasi po naniniwala ako na meron talaga mga taong tinatawag para maging politiko at para pumasok dyan sa pagbabatas. At sa kahit anuman pong larangan ng ating ginagawa, dapat lahat tayo ay passionate about it. Kitang-kita nyo naman kay GM Alex, Attorney Michelle, Attorney Rex na kumbaga talagang palpable ang passion at love for what they do. whether it's pagraradyo, pag-communicate, whether it's being a lawyer, me being an entrepreneur, kailangan po nakikita yan, di ba? So naniniwala ako na yung pagpopolitiko ay isa ring talent na kailangan na seriously ginagawa, di ba? Hindi na dyan ka, empower ka, pero hindi ka naman nakakasulat ng batas o hindi mo naintindihan. But generally, you have an impact in whatever role you are playing in life, no? Whether you're a housewife, you're a madre, pare, di ba? Or a student, ganyan. Kailangan involved lahat. And generally, what we're saying is, marami pong dapat pang gawin sa larangan ng pagbabatas. In fact, challenge kaya ka Attorney Rex. Kasi alam mo, Attorney Rex, kailangan lumakas ang mga maritime lawyers sa Pilipinas eh. Kasi, biruin mo, mining capital of the world tayo. And then we have that issue on ambulance chasing. And then, ang dami pang batas. Yung waypoints, the last time we guested Attorney J. Batong Bakal, he was saying how important nga it is to have yung foundational law, no, to like yung sa ating asset po sa karagatan. Maniwala ba kayo na merong mga nakikita dito sa ilalim ng dagat natin pero ang patent owned by a French? Just because we don't have the, di ba? Just because we don't have the law, the policy, procedure, ganyan, IRR in quantifying our maritime assets, which I think now is already in place with Senator Loren passed it, no? But then, yan na nga, kulang pa rin sa awareness, kulang pa rin sa alam. But anyway, people, nako, may nagko-comment sa akin dito na kailangan daw may part 2 tayo. Attorney Michelle, Attorney Rex, bitin daw ang mga nakikinig sa atin. Dapat daw may part 2. At sa tingin ko po, hindi lang part 2, may part 3 pa. Dahil, Carmela, totoo yan. Because, oo nga. Dahil hindi ho natin na panatakel ang cyber libel and international law, yung sa West Philippine Sea, no? Palalimin natin sa West Philippine Sea because it's a very relevant topic that, puts the Philippines in the radar. And of course, ayaw naman natin ng gera, di ba? So we have to find a peaceful resolution, and then how can an ordinary Filipino help and be involved in relation to this topic. So we have 3 minutes and I have 3% in my laptop. Hindi po ako prepared. Hindi ko dinala yung aking mabigat na charger. But anyway, thank you very much, Attorney Michelle, Attorney Rex. Asahan po namin na maging guest pa rin po kayo sa ating part 2, part 3. At GM Alex, magpagaling ka. Ngayon ko lang nalaman na meron ka palang anak na seafarer. Kaya pala siguro, dalawa. Kaya pala itinadhana ng Diyos na talagang ikaw ang aming anchor person sa Anytime Maritime. Dahil talaga naman palang ikaw ay involved sa maritime by having 2 sons in the industry. So talagang
I can always relate the situation.
Exactly.
Thank you, Attorney Rex, may kababayan, Attorney Michelle.
Thank you, sir.
And the founder, si Ma'am Mary Ann Ibuna Pastrana. Sa lahat ng mga nakikinig, nanonood sa atin sa iba't ibang panig ng Pilipinas at buong mundo, this is your Anytime
Maritime. Intelligent conversations.
Thank you so much.
Here. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Mga kababayan, katatapos na po ng isang episode ng Anytime Maritime.